Well, what a good divisional round weekend we had in the NFL this past weekend. Three of three great games out of the four. One was a blowout, which honestly was not surprising. Kind of to be expected if you think about it, deep dive into it. But um, it was a great weekend of divisional round games for you guys. So obviously, before we dive into it, this is the Wolfpack Sports Network. I am your host, Chris Palo. Um, so if you continue to like this content, please make sure to subscribe. Hit the like button down below. Try to get our algorithms up. Um, but yeah, um, we now have both of our conference championship games set in the NFL. Um, the Ravens, to start off with the divisional round weekend, blowout win over the Texans, 34-10. The Ravens completely, for the most part, dominated the game. It was tied at halftime, but the Ravens fully took control in the second half, scoring 24 unanswered points to blow out the Texans. And it was the main takeaway was the Baltimore defense. Um, Baltimore didn't really have that great. I don't think they had it. If you look on paper, it wasn't that great of an offensive performance by Baltimore as much as it was. They grinded out, ran the ball tremendously. I think they had, looking at Pro Football Reference here, 229 rushing yards by Baltimore in this game. Obviously, Lamar had 252 yards of total offense, 4 total touchdowns, two passing, two rushing, and they pressured C.J. Stroud all day long. They didn't get a sack on him, but they pressured him all day long. He never really looked comfortable in the pocket the entire game. Houston's only touchdown was a punt return for a score, like it late in the second quarter. It was all Baltimore in this one, and Baltimore to me is my favorite to win the Super Bowl. Like ever since, like I was back and forth between them and San Francisco, but then when Baltimore beat San Francisco the way they did on Christmas night, I, it's been Baltimore for me since then. They've been so dominating on the defensive side of the ball. Lamar's having a great season. A lot of people think he should be MVP. Even if he doesn't win the MVP, he's still had a tremendous year. And there's not really much else to talk about this game. If you're, like I said in the wild card reaction, if you're a Houston Texans fan, you should be excited about the future. This was a great year. You had a rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. The fact that y'all won 10 games in the regular season, won your division, won a playoff game against a team with a great defense in Cleveland, and got to this point. Y'all should be very, very excited about what the future holds, and hopefully y'all can continue to build on that. Just now wasn't your time. You went up against a juggernaut. You were tied at halftime, but then wheels kind of fell off from there. So, um, again, not really much else to talk about that game, but other than Baltimore did Baltimore things. Green Bay and San Francisco, however, there was a lot to talk about this game. This game is going to be overshadowed by the Buffalo Kansas City game on Sunday night, which we'll get to. But this was a fantastic game. Like, this game was close throughout. And I feel bad for Jordan Love because there's been a lot of memes come out since the end of this game about Jordan Love. But I mean, you look at it, right? I mean, the storyline coming in was, can Jordan Love do what Aaron Rodgers couldn't do? Right? I mean, obviously, he Jordan Love beats the Cowboys. The Packers blew out the Cowboys. Nobody was expecting that. 48-32 or whatever the score was, and nobody was expecting this game to be close. Everybody thought San Francisco was going to blow out Green Bay, and it was going to be San Francisco versus whoever won the Detroit Tampa Bay game in the conference championship. And Green Bay had the lead heading into the fourth quarter. They had the lead late in the fourth quarter. And it looked like, they might pull off the upset here of San Francisco. But, San Francisco's defense stepped up when they needed most. They intercepted Jordan Love twice. And, Christian McCaffrey scored that touchdown to give the 49ers the lead late in the fourth quarter. McCaffrey had 128 total yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. San Francisco won the game. Huge, huge win for San Francisco, but I think this game here is more telling of Green Bay and Matt LaFleur. I'm not really. I'm gonna sound like I'm hating on Matt LaFleur here, and I'm not. But the Matt LaFleur became head coach. He had 2 or 3 13-win seasons in a row, and yes, it's impressive. But I attributed that more to. I attribute that success more to Aaron Rodgers and the fact that LaFleur had one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL history on his team, and that's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, look at Bill Belichick. He had the greatest quarterback in NFL history on his team for over 2 decades, and now look where we're at with Bill Belichick. He struggled after Brady left, and now Belichick's no longer coaching the Patriots. After Rodgers left to go to the Jets, because you remember last year, the Packers missed the postseason and they struggled mightily. Everybody, including me, thought that the Packers were going to have a down year this year. Like there was going to be a learning curve with Jordan Love as the quarterback. They're a real young team. I think they're the youngest team in the league, or the second youngest team in the league. I can't remember. And yet, over the end of the season, the Packers came on strong, made the postseason, and ended up beating the Cowboys in the first round. I have a lot more respect for Matt LaFleur now than I did before the season started, because he was able to overcome all those challenges and all those questions and led the Packers not only to a winning season and a postseason berth, but a postseason win, and a team that was less than 2 minutes away from going to the NFC Championship game again. So I want to give all the credit in the world to Matt LaFleur. I know there's no moral victories in the NFL. Well, obviously they're going to be disappointed that they lost, especially how they lost, and the fact that Jordan Love threw an interception at the end of the game. And I know a lot of people are going to pile on and say that and make memes about Jordan Love, saying he's a combination of Favre and Rodgers, because we all know Favre used to throw interceptions late in games that cost his team to victory. We remember the Packers versus the Giants back in 2007. We remember the Vikings Saints game in 2009. And then, of course, obviously Rodgers famously not being able to beat the 49ers when it mattered most. But Matt LaFleur should get a lot of credit for how he coached his team this year. And they can build off of this momentum. The Packers are going to be right back up there as one of the favorites in the NFC. But obviously, we'll see. But if you're a 49ers fan, you guys escaped. You guys won at home against a very good team. And now you got to go on to face another very good team who has a lot going for them in the Lions. All right, so the Lions, that was the next game up on the schedule. The Lions beating the Buccaneers 31-23. This game was back and forth for 3 quarters. And it and it was kind of hard for me to kind of pick a team to root for here, because obviously Detroit, the storyline, they haven't made the NFC Championship game in 3 decades. It's their second home game in the postseason, which I don't think has ever happened in Detroit Lions history since the Super Bowl era began. But I also am a big Baker Mayfield fan, and I'm an Oklahoma Sooner fan, so that's why I'm a big Baker fan. And so I was rooting for Baker too. So either way, I was going to be disappointed by the end of this game. But this game was a good game. It was, Baker, I think, cost his team this game by virtue of the 2 interceptions. But he also made some great plays. It was another quarterback duel between the two. Baker had 349 yards passing. Jared Goff had 287 yards passing. So both teams combined for over 600 passing yards. And at the end of the day, it was Detroit stepped up when they needed most. Excuse me. Detroit. We look at the fourth quarter drives, because the fourth quarter is really what changed the way this game kind of went. So, fourth quarter, Buccaneers drives punt, the touchdown to make it an 8-point game, and an interception. Detroit had 3 straight touchdown drives in the second half. They had the touchdown to make it 24-17, a 24-10. I mean, Tampa Bay came back. No, I take that back. Detroit scored, made it 17-10. Buccaneers scored and tied the game. Detroit scored another touchdown to make it 24-17. Buccaneers punted. And then Detroit scored another one to make it 31-17. That was the key part of the game right there. Now, obviously, Baker led the team back. Tampa Bay scored a touchdown. Baker to Mike Evans. They failed the 2-point conversion. And now the Buccaneers ended up getting another chance to maybe tie the game after they forced Detroit to punt, but Detroit wasted over 2.5 minutes off the clock. Baker throws a pick. At the end of the day, I mean, the biggest takeaway for me was Detroit shows up when you need them most. Obviously, their defense can be suspect at times. They gave up 408 total yards, obviously. But there's something about this Detroit team where in clutch moments, for the most part, they show up. right? Even if you look back to the Dallas game at the end of the regular season, like they would have won that game had it not been for the refs and that whole ineligible receiver thing. It's a great story. I feel bad for Baker because I know he worked his butt off to get back to where he's at as a being viewed as a solid quarterback. He had a great year when nobody thought he was going to have a great year. Everybody thought that this was just a gap stop for Tampa Bay to get another quarterback in the draft. But he had a solid year that is comparable to Brady's 2022 season. If you don't believe me, go to Pro Football Reference and compare the two seasons. Um, like it's Baker had a good year, but at the end of the day, the Lions found a way to grind it out, found a way to win a game, and the good story continues because now they have to go to San Francisco next Sunday to try and win the conference championship on the road, which is something Detroit has never done, and they're doing it against a franchise that is a powerhouse who's had a lot of success, who made the Super Bowl a few years ago, have had a couple chances to do so since then, haven't got over the hump, but we'll see what happens. I this was a great game that, like the Green Bay San Francisco game, came down to the wire. Just happened, just like with Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield threw a pick. And the crazy thing is too, and we'll get into this with the Chiefs Bills game, the winning quarterback in each game this postseason has not had a turnover, which is crazy to me. So, that being said, the last game, the Chiefs on the road, first time in the Patrick Mahomes era, managed to win and beat the Bills again. And if you are a Bills fan, I feel really bad for y'all. I know Bills fans are probably still thinking about that missed kick by Tyler Bass in the fourth quarter that brought deja vu to Bills fans all over. But, I mean, it was another classic between these two teams. I mean, just back and forth again and again. I mean, this was one of the best divisional rounds I can remember. And, you know, both teams lugged it out. I think the Bills had 182 rushing yards. Kansas City had 146. I mean, it was even. Patrick Mahomes, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. Josh Allen, 186 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, but he also had 2 rushing touchdowns and 72 rushing yards. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, with all the questions surrounding the wide receiver group, the drops, the whole issue of their offense is not as good as they have been in years past, yet they're still in the AFC Championship game again. And the question now is, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan and your Buffalo Bills organization, is how do you get over the hump? Right? Because this is, I believe, what year is this under the Josh Allen tree? Year 6. They made the postseason each of the last 5 years. Josh Allen. 2019, you lose in a wildcard round to Houston by 3. 2020, you lose the conference championship game to the Chiefs by 14. 2021, you lose the division round to the Chiefs, that famous game that everybody remembers, one of the greatest playoff games of all time. And in 2022, You lose by 17 to Cincinnati in the divisional round. At some point, something's got to change, right? They're a great team, right? They've been in the top 10 in points for points scored and points allowed since each of the last 3 years, 2021, 2022, 2023. But in the postseason, that doesn't translate for whatever reason. And it's just hopefully at some point the Bills will get over that hump. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's crazy too. Like the AFC and the NFC are so different, right? Y'all remember back in the day when it came to Super Bowl quarterback appearances, right? In the AFC, it was only um, Roethlisberger, Brady, and Peyton Manning. And Flacco had like the 1 year where he made it. And now you add Patrick Mahomes onto that list. I mean, and then on the NFC side, it's like a different quarterback every year. And it'll be like that again this year because either Brock Purdy's going to make his first Super Bowl as a quarterback or Jared Goff will make his second appearance as a quarterback in the Super Bowl and his first one in like 7 years. At some point, the Bills will get in, but they're going to need like a Joe Flacco 2012 performance out of Josh Allen in the postseason, I think, at this point to get there. Because, I mean, the Chiefs, like I just mentioned, always seem to find a way to get into the conference championship game under Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I mean, that's just how it is. They're like the Chiefs are the new Brady Belichick of the AFC, just without the scandals and the Flake Gate and this whatever I can't remember the Spygate, without all that. So, but yeah, I mean this was a great weekend for football. 3 great games. So we got on the AFC side we have Kansas City at Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. We have Detroit at San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. I'm expecting both games to be really good. I think, hopefully we'll get some fresh blood. Obviously, the NFL script is San Francisco, Baltimore because of the whole logo thing of the Super Bowl logo and the colors and everything. But if we get Detroit in the Super Bowl, how crazy would that be? In 2024, to see the Detroit Lions finally make their first Super Bowl in franchise history. A franchise that hasn't won a championship since, I think, 1957. It'd be crazy. I mean, seeing them against, now obviously Baltimore being in the Super Bowl will be cool too, but I mean, Baltimore's won the Super Bowl twice already. So it's not like they're a team like the Lions who have been around the league a long time but haven't had any success. I mean, they've had success. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited for next weekend. Hopefully, it'll be a great weekend for football. Great, and then we can focus on the Super Bowl and all of that. But if you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe down below. Try to make more videos for y'all as we dive deeper into the end of the football season, and then we'll get into NBA content. I know the NBA season's going strong right now. Obviously, college basketball is going strong right now as well. We'll get into that some more as well. But I'm ready for conference championship weekend. So have a good rest of Tuesday. Like, subscribe, comment down below with your thoughts on the games as well for me. See y'all later.